Hey babe, I need to sit with you. Heart unarmored, eyes steady, voice as clear as I can make it, and give you the whole, unvarnished truth about why, for a season, I leaned on someone else instead of on the bond we've spent years weaving. I've rehearsed this confession in the shower, on midnight drives, in the anxious quiet just before dawn. Each time, the wording changed, but the ache stayed the same because I know that no arrangement of syllables can erase the hurt you've carried while I stayed silent. What words can do, though, is draw a full color map of my mistakes, so you see every fork where fear guided me away from us and toward the shortcut that became a canyon. First, please understand that this isn't a comparison between two people or a hidden attempt to shift blame to you. It's a spotlight trained on my own fractures, a tour of the places where I confused urgency with wisdom and practicality with intimacy. The third party, let's call her Sarah, stepped into a gap I had been ignoring in myself. In that particular moment, she seemed to have every tool my panicked mind demanded, and I convinced myself that borrowing her stability was the only way to keep my life from collapsing. I was wrong. But before I could see that, I let convenience masquerade as destiny and let fear dress up as pragmatism. You know how restless I get when a problem feels bigger than my skill set, how self-doubt can seize me until even routine decisions feel like tightropes over open air. That restlessness was raging when Sarah appeared. She was a colleague first, someone who carried contingency plans color-coded and ready to deploy. Her language was bullet points, timelines, and quick fixes. My overwhelmed brain found that music soothing. When deadlines at work closed in like walls, she handed me solutions as easily as passing a pen across a desk. It felt, in the moment, like oxygen. What I never did was give you space to offer that same kind of support. I didn't say, I'm drowning. Can you help me stay above water? I built a private story instead, that if you saw these cracks, you decide I wasn't the partner you signed up for. So I fed my panic with secrecy, and secrecy flourished in the dark. Sarah's help felt transactional and therefore safe. If she saw me fail, I told myself the emotional fallout would be contained. Letting her in seemed less risky than opening my fears to someone whose opinion of me truly matters. That calculus was cowardly, and I'm ashamed of it. There's another layer, closer to the bone. For a long stretch, I had equated being useful with being worthy. Sarah's support made me feel useful again, competent, maybe even impressive. Each quick solution she offered stamped a temporary approval on the parts of me I doubted. That rush was intoxicating, and like anything intoxicating, it blurred moral lines. I started confusing gratitude for affection, then converting that affection into dependency. The slide was subtle but steady. Late night messages labeled urgent, coffee breaks extended by just one more question, a gentle teasing that, at first, seemed harmlessly professional until one day it wasn't. Was I aware of the risk? On a hazy level, yes. But denial is a potent sedative. I kept chanting that our exchanges were purely work-related while ignoring how my pulse stuttered whenever her name lit up my phone. I didn't notice that I was reshuffling my entire schedule around the possibility of 10 extra minutes with her. Looking back, I see how my hunger for ease tricked me into equating near-term relief with long-term truth. I taught myself to believe that comfort equals compatibility, when in reality it was just the absence of vulnerability. All the while, our relationship was breathing, wounded but alive, waiting for me to trust it enough to be messy. Each time you asked, "Are you okay?" you feel distant. I wrapped my answer in gift paper brevity, as if sparing you details was kindness. In reality, I was sparing myself the discomfort of accountability. I thought that by protecting you from my struggles, I was protecting our love. In hindsight, I realized transparency would have fortified us, not fractured us. I need you to hear this. Choosing her was never about replacing the tenderness we share. It was about me outsourcing my own growth. I reached for a shortcut instead of building the patience to address my deficits with you beside me. Fear whispered that if you witnessed my unraveling, you might step back. So I created parallel tracks, one life with you, filled with curated highlights, and another life where my anxiety dumped its raw footage into someone else's inbox. That division kept me staggering through days, pretending balance while growing emptier by the week. Eventually, guilt grew louder than the temporary comfort. I remember the exact night. You were laughing at a show we've watched a dozen times, your feet tucked under mine, your trust resting casually between us. In that ordinary intimacy, I felt the full weight of what I'd done. How I'd allowed my fear to gamble with something irreplaceable. I ended things with Sarah the next day, but endings are rarely surgical. Tangles unwind slowly. Frayed edges snag for months. And secrecy, the seed of all this, loathes sudden light. So the only honest path left was this one, to drag every detail into the open and let daylight sterilize what shadows fed upon. Since then, I've done my homework. Therapy sessions that strip excuses to their studs. Journals filled with blunt inventories of my triggers, my blind spots, my childhood myths about worthiness. Conversations with mentors who refuse to let me pivot away from hard truths. None of that earns forgiveness. Nothing could. These efforts aren't receipts, but promises. Proof that I'm investing in the slow reconstruction of integrity. I want our relationship rebuilt without secret rooms. No closets locked. No curtains drawn over doubts. Here's what that reconstruction looks like to me. Weekly check-ins where we both name what feels off before cracks widen into canyons. Shared calendars, not as surveillance, but as open doors, so you always know there's nothing nocturnal hiding in my schedule. Couples therapy, if you're willing, because a neutral room can turn confrontation into collaboration. Accountability partners, friends or mentors we both trust, who can ask us the uncomfortable questions at regular intervals. Patience, an ocean of it, because trust doesn't sprint. It takes measured, deliberate steps. I also acknowledge your autonomy. You have every right to step back and decide if this foundation can bear new weight. My apology can't obligate you to stay. Healing is cooperative, and if the road ahead feels like shattered glass, I will respect whatever boundary you draw. Loving someone sometimes means accepting that your presence might no longer nurture their growth. I pray that isn't our story, but the next chapter is ours to co-author, or yours to author alone, if that feels safest. Should you choose to stay, I understand the journey will be uneven. There will be mornings when my phone buzzing sparks suspicion, evenings when my distracted stare resurrects old alarms. On those days, I won't ask you to swallow your discomfort in the name of harmony. I'll meet you in it, because discomfort is tuition for re-earned trust. Let's talk openly about your fears, my fears, and the small victories that prove progress, even if we measure in inches. I also want us both to remember what remains untarnished beneath the debris. The laughter bubbling through grocery aisles, the quiet harmony of road trips, the way your shoulder becomes my home during movie nights. These threads aren't consolation prizes. They're evidence that our core is resilient. I'm willing to fight for that resilience with honesty and sustained effort, even on days when the sky looks charcoal gray. Thank you for standing in this difficult light with me. Your willingness to listen is a gift I have not always honored. Whatever you need next, space, conversation, time to think, I'll provide it without protest. You set the pace. I will match it with steady steps and clear eyes. So let me say this plainly one final time. Choosing Sarah wasn't choosing her over you. It was choosing a shortcut over vulnerability, immediate relief over deeper connection, fierce counsel over love's courage. I see that now with painful clarity. I'm asking, not for swift absolution, but for a chance to demonstrate, through consistent action, that the person who made that cowardly choice is not the person I'm determined to be. I hope we can transform this fracture into a seam of stronger fabric, woven with transparency, accountability, and a tenderness tempered by trials. I love you. Those words may feel lighter today, stripped of the certainties you once took for granted, but they're still true. I love you, and because I love you, I am willing to do the slow, exacting work of becoming worthy of the trust I broke. If you choose to walk forward with me, I will spend every mile proving that lesson has been etched into my bones. With all the honesty I can hold, your name,